Hare Krishna. Welcome to Thursday Instagram online session. Folk Life welcomes you for the Thursday evening session. So before we start about today's special session on spiritual perspective, Prabhupada once said, whatever Krishna has said is correct. If Krishna has told, our doubts are over, our confusion is over. Bas. That's the spiritual perspective. To know more about the spiritual perspective, that is Krishna's perspective, the Creator's perspective, the God's perspective in reality. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshadarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakturanda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Perspectives. All of us, right from our childhood till we die, have perspective of same thing being changed continuously, consistently. As we grow from childhood to youthhood to old age, the things what we see as a certain thing in the childhood will not remain the same thing as the youthhood, because the understanding of that concept changes. Just like when you see a sun or a moon as a child, I used to wonder, I remember, I used to contemplate and think, right now I'm at my granny's home, I should write a letter to my friend in Mysore asking him whether sun existed there, whether sun is shining there, whether moon is shining there in the night, so that I get a letter back him, oh, how come sun is here also, sun is there also, example. Later on, the relative motion, why is sun following me, moon is following me. But later on, when you grow up as a student of science, you understand why it happens. But when you understand a little further how big the sun is, it is 14,000 times bigger than the earth, and what the scientific community recommends, it is made up of helium and hydrogen and something like that, then you get a spiritual perspective wherein the Supreme Lord in the Bhagavad Gita, when he tells, I instructed this imperishable knowledge to sun god Vivaswan, then immediately doubt what you had. Arjuna also had that doubt. How come this knowledge you informed the sun god who is senior to you by birth? Again, the Lord clarifies that I had the spiritual body, my body doesn't change. All of you take bodies and take birth. Your body continues to change. Hence you forget, don't remember. My body is unchangeable. I don't change my body. Hence I remember everything. See the perspective, how it has changed. So to see things in their own perspective, or the real perspective, is to see through the perspective of Shastra. Now, if you purchase a gadget or you're commissioning an industrial big commissioning of a machine, you have to follow a systematic step-by-step procedure as mentioned or given in the manual of commissioning or erection, or the instruction manual given for any gadget to be used. Now the gadget which is manufactured, or the machine which is manufactured by the company knows in and out of it. They designed it, they manufactured it, and they know how to operate it. And if you commission it, erect it and operate based on what the instruction manual gave, then that machine will work efficiently. That would be the actual perspective of how the machine works and functions. Now, someone who has not referred the manual, somebody who has no idea about what the machine is, he is an illiterate person who doesn't know what is this machine all about. Say for this, a remote or a phone, if someone from say 19th century comes to know about this now and he sees this, he doesn't know what it is. He may use it for some other perspective. He may use it for nailing it, or maybe throwing it somewhere, or he may use it for any other purpose. But so basically, if you want to know the real perspective of things, so we have to hear it from the person who made this. Hence, to have the real perspective, you should always refer the Vedic literatures, and there are so many of them, Vedic literatures, giving perspectives of every aspect under the sky, above the sky, beyond the sky. Correct? So in this age of Kali, we are not able to grasp those vast amount of knowledge. Hence the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita, because He is the Supreme Personality of God, and He is the Creator, He is the Maintainer, and He is the Annihilator, He has given the manual in the form of Bhagavad Gita. That is the complete perspective of the things as they are. So if you understand the world from the perspective of Krishna, that is a real perspective. And Krishna, throughout the Bhagavad Gita, gives the real perspective of it. What we think, what generally other people think, what the different angles of people think about a particular subject matter, He also addresses, and He gives His real understanding. Because that is most important thing. Because we have to know the perspective of the Creator. Creator understands all these things. Creator has made it for a purpose, and He has a real intention and a perspective for it. It is very imperative for us to understand, because without understanding His perspective, we try to operate or function the machine, it will be of no use. In fact, it would be dangerous, it would be lethal, it should be non-productive. Unfortunately, humankind, mankind at large, has been refusing to accept this version of the absolute truth. And even if we accept the version of the absolute truth, that version has been misinterpreted or guided wrong way by the motivated interpretation of so-called writers of Bhagavad Gita, especially which Swami Prabhupada calls them as Mayavada, where they give their personal, impersonalist interpretation about what Lord Krishna has to speak. When Lord Krishna says, He's instructing Arjuna to incite violence, to follow His instructions. There are some authors who give the perspective that, Krishna was speaking on non-violence from Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is instructing on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, but instead of speaking of what Krishna is speaking, they are talking about non-violence. Or they give this 5 Pandavas are the 5 senses, and Arjuna or Krishna is the doctor, and they are in difficulty, and the mind is the culprit, and the 5 senses are there. Various perspectives, just like I'm telling, there are various perspectives. When Swami Prabhupada was asked to give recommend a book, Bhagavad Gita, in English, recommend the Gita, because at that point of time, according to him, in 70s, before he could compile Macmillan, there was more than 600 editions of Bhagavad Gita, 600 perspectives, which is not in line with the real agenda of Supreme Personality of God. That's why the perspective should be in line with what Krishna has said. If Arjuna has understood the Gita the way Krishna taught, if Arjuna's perspective is different from the author's perspective or Krishna's perspective, then that is not the right understanding. So we have to understand the way Arjuna has understood the Gita. If our understanding is different from the understanding of Arjuna, then that understanding is not the right understanding of Gita. So that's why we have to refer the Gita. Say for example, now I have this phone today with me. I'll just see, I'll read out few news, what happened today, and I'll see what would be the perspective from the Vedic perspective or a spiritual perspective. So I just type today's news headlines and I get, okay, I have to read this anyways. Rahul Gandhi convicted in defamation case over Modi sir. Remark. What is the spiritual perspective? In this material world, people are fighting for such causes. Some insults, some counter insults. There's a law of the state. Nobody can escape. This is the general perspective of what this statement goes through. But the real understanding is forgetting the real purpose and goal of life. Not only the common populace, but everyone in the position are not able to apply the principles of Gita in their lives. And just like when the human beings are not governed by dharma, they are governed by adharma or governed by the fancies of their senses. Just like you don't find religion in animalistic life. Animals are motivated to do based on their instincts. That's their perspective of life. Eat, drink and be merry is the perspective of animalistic society. That's why their fundamental purpose is ahar, nidra, bhaya. So that's what Shastra says. If the human life is bereft of this dharma, dharma hina pashubir narana, human beings are as good as animals. And in the animal society, you cannot expect peace. You call me some names, I call you some names, and when I heard you you get hurted and we fight with each other, and things goes on like this. This is one perspective, or real perspective. Next, this earthquake in the West Delhi. Tremors were felt, which happened in the 150 kilometers apart. The tremors were felt in the North India earthquakes. So earthquake is a reality. Now, how the world sees, what is the perspective of the Vedic literatures? Adi Daivika Kleshas, suffering caused because of higher living entities. There are three varieties of suffering. Suffering caused by body and mind, Adi Atmika Klesha. Suffering caused by other living entities, Adi Bhautika Kleshas. Suffering caused by higher living entities, Adi Daivika Kleshas. These earthquakes come under Adi Daivika Kleshas. Like you have earthquakes, tsunamis, tornadoes, tsunamis and volcanoes, pestilence, floods, hurricanes. These are caused by higher living entities. On what basis do they get it? Based on the combined law of karma of the people at large. If by and large people are sinful, and sinful tendency of the people are because of ignorance. And because of ignorance, they perform sinful activities, and because of sinful activities, they get suffering. Just see now how these things are seen in a real perspective based on Shastra. Next headline I'll see. Amritpal Singh, the Khalistani, you may call, if you are from the Indian perspective, a terrorist, or who wants to have a separate part of Punjab to be an independent Khalistan taken away from India. Or if you see from a Pakistani perspective, also they are aiding this separatist agent so that they can help him to disable India further. So basically they are fighting for a chunk of land, of course, in the bigger perspective. Now who does the land belong to? Neither it belongs to India, neither Pakistan nor the Sikhs. This tract of land, Punjab or India or the whole world or the whole cosmos, belongs to the Supreme Lord. As long as you don't understand this, that everything belongs to Krishna, and Krishna in the Gita 5.29 says, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, Suradam Sarvat Bhutama, Kyatma Mam Shanti Rachati. Anyone who understands this principle, that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, everything belongs to him, and he is the dearmost friend, only then Shanti or peace will be sustained. Otherwise, Shanti is a distant dream. Example. Next. TikTok CEO reports Chinese spying allegations. Now, spying allegations. You don't have to be, don't need a spying software or a spying person to know what's happening in a system, in a consciousness. Lord, as a supreme personality of Godhead, Ishvara Sarva Bhutana Hridayeshu Arjuna Tishtati, he is seated in the heart. He knows everything and anything what's happening, what has happened in the past in my life, what's going to happen now, and according to my actions and karma, he'll get to know what's I going to do in the future. So in that sense, Paramatma is my constant companion. He is my real dearmost friend. In spite of all the rebellious, bhagi attitude what I have, he consistently assists me to explore my things minus of him. And whenever I want him, he'll be there to assist me. And that Paramatma plays a very important role in my existence. If without him seeing, I cannot see. Without him assisting my work, I cannot do it. So he is Anumanta and Upadrashta for a normal conditioned soul. But for a devotee who's engaged in a pure devotional service, he personally guides. So we need to make friendship with him. And for that perspective, we need to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. When we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, by the blessing of the spiritual master, who is the mercy incarnation of the Paramatma, the Chaitya Guru within the heart takes the form of the spiritual master and helps us to understand the Paramatma within, and together we'll achieve the perfection of life of going back home, back to God and seeing Krishna face to face. Next, stock market highlight. Nifty charts indicate sell on rise platform. What should traders do on Friday? So this is anxiety. Gambling is a pure gambling. In the gambling aspect, why gambling is one of the sinful activity? Because every now and then you have to be conscious about what's going to happen now. 6-4 trading consciously. Even in washrooms, they are trading monitors, and they're selling, they're hiking, they're purchasing, and all those traders, what they do. So they are full of anxiety. There's a tendency to cheat. The scams are in making, the scandals are making, the hidden burrow repairs or the scams, Harshit Mehta scam or scams. People are getting cheated for an instant gratification of instant greed of money. We spend a lot of things into it and forgetting the purpose and goal of life. The greed increases, and this dharma is standing on the 4 pillars. One pillar is truthfulness. And the truthfulness is disturbed when you gamble. Hence, gambling is one of the sinful activity. It should be avoided as much as possible. And if at all, if you want to gamble, also gamble your life for Krishna, and that would be the ultimate gamble. Okay. Okay. Next, we have headline, COVID-19 cases reach the peak after 140 days. 1,800 cases in India today. So that is the nature of this material world. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Doshanu, Darshanam. Vyadi is a inseparable is part of this material world. As long as you have this body, you will have diseases. If not corona, something else. Diseases you cannot separate. So that's what scriptures are telling. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Doshanu, Darshanam. Krishna tells in the Gita, these are the real dukkhas. And we should find a solution for these problems of life. Instead of that, we just get enamored with eating, mating, sleeping, and defending like animals and forget the purpose and goal of life. So diseases are part and parcel. But the human body, although it diseases, although it gets old, although it gets death and also has a birth, but this time period, when you are in a human form of life, you can inquire about who is Brahman, who is Paramatma, who is Bhagavan, and what is my relationship with him? Why am I suffering? What happens after that? All these most fundamental questions, rational questions, logical, reasonable questions for the existence of life can be asked only by the human form of life. And those who are little intelligent, who can ask and can understand, and further intelligent can even practice this in this life. So that these are the perspectives. Now, when we understand the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, when we can be able to see things as they are. Otherwise, minus Bhagavad Gita, minus Krishna's understanding, we will see things according to our conditioning based on Tamoguna, Rajoguna and Sattva-guna. Food in Tamoguna, food in Rajoguna, food in Sattva-guna. Action in Tamoguna, action in Rajoguna, action in Sattva-guna. Charity in Tamoguna, charity in Sattva-guna, charity in Rajoguna. So all our activities are actually carried out by three modes of material nature. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, Devi Esha Gunamai, Mama Maya Dvarta. My Maya is difficult to overcome. These three modes are fighting amongst each other to conquer us, to regulate us, to monitor us, to influence us. And we think, Ahankara Vimudatma Kartaham iti manyate. And we think that I am the one who is doing it. No, it's not. So the three modes of nature, the invisible ropes which is making me move and act the way I think I'm acting. It is not me, it's my conscious decision. No, it is the three modes of nature. Of course, I had desired and the material nature facilitates based on my karma. Okay. Delhi likely to witness rain today, and this is March and it's raining. So in Kali Yuga, the weather, the rains, Ativrishti, Anavrishti, there will be excessive rain. This is a prophecy in Srimad Bhagavatam. At the end of Srimad Bhagavatam 12th canto, there are some prophecies which is going to happen in Kali Yuga as mentioned. And one of the prophecies, there will be heavy rains and there will be no rains. And this is happening. So prophecy which was mentioned 5,000 years ago written is happening today. Another classical example of prophecy is in Kali Yuga, there will be a shortage of grains. It's happening. People will be levied heavy taxes happening all across the globe. Every country is increasing the tax base. And people, for the morsel of grain, for bread and butter, they have to slog like an ass happening. As Kali Yuga passes, the duration of life, the bodily strength, the mercy, truthfulness, all these good qualities will deteriorate and further become nil happening. Men and women will stay together as long as there is sexual attraction. Moment there is a discrepancy in that, they will divorce or break up happening. Men who can speak word jugglery, we don't understand what he's speaking. Oh, he's considered an intelligent person happening. If you can't pay the lawyers, you cannot get a favorable judgment. That means a poor cannot afford proper law. You cannot go to the court, go to the police, because you need to be rich to afford to get justice happening. So these are things which are prophesied in Srimad Bhagavatam 5,000 years ago has come true. That is a perspective which you should have when you see things Kali-yuga. And in the same literature, it is mentioned, even though Kali-yuga is full of such difficulties, full of such faults, there's one special quality of Kali-yuga is that Kirtana Deva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Varjet. Kaler Doshanide Rajan Asti Eko Mahan Guna. Although this Kali is ocean of faults, still there's one great quality. What is that? Kirtana Deva Krishnasya. If somebody chants Krishna's name, Mukta Sangha, he will be freed from all these unwanted things and Param Varjet. He'll attain the topmost goal of life, to go back home, back to Godhead. So that is a special mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that for people of Kali-yuga, and this is an advantage. And this real perspective as given to us by Swami Prabhupada. So we need to understand this perspective of Krishna through the spiritual master Swami Prabhupada, who has given his knowledge through his transcendental purports, Bhaktivedanta purports. If you read his books, the real perspective we'll see things as they are, not how we perceive. And that makes us knowledgeable. And because of which we become knowledgeable, we refuse to sin. And because we refuse to sin, and because of the higher perspective and the real knowledge and the higher taste, we don't sin. And because we don't sin, we don't suffer miseries. And that is what the goal of all the acharyas and the scriptures and Supreme Lord himself. Okay? With this I stop. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.